My case study is on a student at Bay Minette Elementary School named Joshua. He's in the first grade. He's 7 years old. He lives in Bay Minette, Alabama with his mom and his grandma and his two older brothers. Although I think one of them is his cousin, but he calls him his brother. He says he doesn't get to see his dad that much because he works a lot. His parents are not married, but they're dating. And his mother stays in very close contact with my CT, Miss Emmons, about Joshua's behavior. Miss Emmons also had his older brother, and she said that he had the same behavior problems. Joshua is a very smart child. He excels in math. He loves to play Extra Math on his iPad, and he usually beats all of the other students. Extra Math is an iPad app that lets the students practice their math drills, and you can see it right here. Josh is already on multiplication, and it goes through like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and then division, and he's on multiplication right now. And he also loves to play outside. Joshua has a lot of energy and is always running around playing, most of the time when he isn't supposed to. I always have to get onto him when he runs in line. His best friend in the classroom is a student named Travaris, and Travaris is also a behavioral problem, and they often get in trouble together. Joshua is also a very talented basketball player and plays for the Bay Minette club team. And you can see from his interest inventory right here, his favorite thing to do is play with his friends and race them, and he usually does this when we are walking somewhere in line. And his favorite subject is math, and his least favorite subject is reading. I don't know why. He does very well in both of those subjects. But I usually have to prompt him a lot to get him to do what he needs to do in reading. And his hobbies are, I really like to race people, obviously, and play basketball. And he couldn't think of a favorite book. And his favorite thing to do in the classroom is play Extra Math on the iPads, because he usually wins and they will get a treat if they score the most. His best friend is Travaris. Favorite color is blue. When he gets in trouble, what he gets in trouble for most at the school is not listening to the teacher and tattletelling, and also he gets in trouble a lot for his angry outbursts. And his favorite thing about school is getting to play on our iPads and playing outside on the jungle gym. Joshua's IEP is for behavior. He takes medication for his ADHD. However, my CT believes that he was misdiagnosed, or his mother may be lying about the diagnosis. He has a lot of angry outbursts, and if the students are bothering him during extra math time, and they could just brush up against him, and he would get so angry and throw his stuff around. And Miss Emmons usually allows him to go sit outside in the hallway sometimes to finish his work. But even that bothers him because the teacher down the hallway, he says that she talks too loud. And my CT sometimes will step outside with him to calm him down or send him to the counselor to work out his problems. One day, when he wasn't given his medicine, he got so bad that the principal had to come down and get him from the classroom, and he threw his backpack at the principal and hit him. Other than a few outbursts he has a week, which he usually has about 5 a week, he's a very sweet and loving child. I have never seen anything like him. He is usually the first to get his work done, and I usually have him grade papers for me, run errands for me, and I really do enjoy being around him and working with him. You can see him right here. We were outside making a bulletin board, and he was helping me staple some things, and he's just so cute. This is an excerpt from my teacher interview. I asked her what are Joshua's strengths and weaknesses, and she said one of his strengths is definitely math. Another one of his strengths is he's a very pleasant child to be around and very loving when he's taking his medication. I really hate to say that he's bad when he hasn't taken his meds, but it's the truth. I've never come across a child like him. I agree. It really affects his demeanor when he hasn't taken his medication. And usually I've only seen him not take his medication one time, and his grandmother just simply forgot to give it to him. His weakness doesn't have anything to do with school because he does fine in school and is one of the most intelligent students in the class. It has to do more with social aspects, I would say. I'm not condoning that the students pick on each other, but they're in first grade, so it happens. However, Josh just cannot handle it. He will stomp his feet, cross his arms, throw his paper, cry, and sometimes hit other students that mess with him in the least little ways. He is always has to be first in everything or else he pitches a fit. Okay, for my ecological inventories, I observed him in 3 different settings. On the playground, this is the first one. On the playground, Joshua stayed right around Miss Emmons in my lap, which I thought was very unlike him because he loves to play around so much. We told him to go play multiple times and even called Travaris over to make him go, but he wouldn't. I think it was because he felt left out in a way because the other students weren't asking him to play, and at PE he knows he has to or he'll get in trouble. I told him to just go join in with the other students, but he didn't want to. Also, it may be because he has alienated so many of the students because he was always yelling at them, which worries me a lot. Then the next one was during math time. They were allowed 15 minutes to play on their iPads when they come in from lunch, which is the Extra Math app, before the math instruction. At the end of the 15 minutes, the students come to the carpet. Miss Emmons had a lot of difficulty getting Josh to the carpet. She had to prompt him 3 or 4 times to get off his iPad and come to the carpet. It delayed the lesson starting about 10 minutes or more, and she finally got him to come to the carpet, and he threw his iPad on the table and threw himself on the carpet. Miss Emmons calmly told Joshua to come to the carpet each time, and he ignored her until she moved his pen down, and then he pitched a fit, but he calmed himself down quickly, which he usually does, calm himself down pretty quickly, but some other times when she tries to get him off Extra Math, he just won't do it because he hasn't had enough time to get to the end of it, and it'll show him his score. And if he hasn't got to the end of his Extra Math, he will sit there, whether you tell him to come to the carpet or not, and finish his Extra Math. The next one I did was reading. The last area I observed Josh was in reading. And the students were taking a test, and they were reading their story aloud, which Miss Emmons allows them to do so they can hear their mistakes. He yelled at the people at his table multiple times to be quiet. Miss Emmons told him to quiet down and others around him. When he still wouldn't quiet down and concentrate, she let him go out in the hallway to finish. That worked, and he was able to finish his test. So, I would have probably done the same thing that Miss Emmons did, but a lot of times, like I said, when she allows him to go in the hallway, he complains about Miss Barnett, the teacher down the hallway, yelling. She doesn't yell, she just has a really loud voice. And for his sociogram, he chose the students that I thought he would for each section because he rarely tries to talk to anyone else. The students he chose didn't necessarily choose him back. For instance, Don Tavis didn't choose him back as one of his best friends, and neither did Kingston. Tavares did pick him back as one of his best friends, and that came as no surprise to me, because they're always together. I did have to make him choose new students that he wanted to be friends with. He wasn't as open about doing that because he is so shy and standoffish at times. So I had to pretty much make him choose Bryson and Maddie, because he chose Kendrick, who he talks to sometimes for new friends. And I had to make him choose 2 other students that he wanted to be friends with. But at other times, like at PE, he isn't shy. I do worry that Joshua is going to alienate his friends because his comfortability level is so low and other students won't understand this. He struggles socially because he gets aggravated with students so easily and tattletales on them so much that they start to dislike him. Also, because he knows that he gets aggravated easily, he stays by himself a lot during the class. Like during Extra Math, he will either be behind me at my chair because he says he can't focus, or go out in the hallway, or he'll go in a corner of the room away from everybody else. For example, when I did my lessons for the math and science, I had to sit him out and let him do his worksheet, this worksheet that I had for him, because he kept stealing supplies from the group and making his own house instead of working with the whole group. I told him about 10 times to stop, but I finally had to sit him out, and I really, really didn't want to. Also, a lot of the times, he would try and sit at the back table with me because he said, as I said, he can't concentrate, and a lot of the times I won't let him because the other students come up and say that it's not fair, which it isn't. However, when I can see that he is getting frustrated, I will usually let him sit at the back table with me. And I really wish I had more time with Joshua to see his behavior every day and work with him on it, because I worry that it will be an issue when he gets older. It could be that he's just young right now and he will grow out of it, but I really, really seriously doubt this is the case. Some of the accommodations I implemented with Joshua were, he didn't require as much, I don't feel, as the other students academically. However, I did have to seat him near the front for each of my lessons and monitored him more than the others. Like if I was asking a question, I would have to call on him, or he would raise his hand like this and get in my face, which I had to seat him down and get on to him for that. And he would get upset if I did not call on him during the lesson and ball up and pitch one of his fits. During the activity for math and science, as I said, I put Joshua into a cooperative learning group, which was the group he was at his table that I ended up having to take him away from. I had his peers work with him towards building the pig's house. This went okay for a while, but after Joshua got really frustrated when the house wouldn't stay up on its own. And he started to hit the house to knock it down and ruin the other students' work. So when I finally did get him to work with the other students, he was getting so frustrated because they couldn't get the house to stay upright, and he completely just knocked it all down. And it started to cause a big problem, so I had to sit him out, and he promptly stormed out of the room into the hallway. To be honest, I didn't really know what to do. I handled it the way that I had seen Miss Emmons, my CT, handled it, and just gave him time to cool down. I hate to admit this, but a lot of different things that I tried with Joshua didn't work. Like the group I put him in, or allowing him time to cool down before coming back in. He would always just come back inside more mad than before because no one paid him attention when he stormed out. An intervention that I did see work was positive behavior supports. If I saw that he was getting frustrated, I would talk with him about it and work it out. Or I would allow him to run errands for me or grade math papers for me, which he loves, and that really, really helped. I really think that my CT has allowed him to get away with too much, and he just keeps stretching the limits of her patience. She usually just ignores him, whereas I would try to reprimand him and talk about things with him and set guidelines for him when he was in my classroom or her classroom. This was very hard to do because he was so used to how she handled him. However, I tried my best with him, and I really feel like he responds to me better now. I learned so many things from my time with Joshua. I learned there are many different ways to handle a student with ADHD, which is what he was diagnosed with. And I always thought that ADHD students were the ones that couldn't stay still in class. They were always up and hyper. However, Joshua really wasn't like this, and his behavior had to do more with anger and not being able to control himself. He was very impulsive. Everything that I thought I knew about classroom management changed when I met Joshua. I thought being stern and firm with the students would work most of the time. However, this just set Joshua off more. For example, one time another teacher grabbed Joshua by the collar because he was running around the cafeteria and she couldn't get him to stop. And he wasn't minding anyone, and I cringed when she did that because I knew he would be in an awful mood the rest of the day, and my teacher would send him out because she couldn't deal with him, and she did. She sent him to the office. And this bothered me a lot, so I went looking for online for positive behavior supports I could use if I ever had a student like Joshua in the future. And I found a presentation. It was by Glenn Dunlap and Lisa Fox, and I included the link right here. And it lays out sort of the foundations for PBIS. And I feel like if this had been implemented with Joshua, his behavior would have improved greatly. I really wish I had more time with Joshua to try and truly implement this positive behavior supports, so Joshua can feel like he is a valuable asset to the classroom. And when I would have him run errands for me and grade papers, I could see that his behavior was changing because he felt like he was needed in a way. I've truly enjoyed my time working with Joshua because he's a very smart child that excels in school with little effort on his part, which may be half of his problem. He just needs to be in a classroom that is structured and has set guidelines and consequences for his behavior. And I hate to say that, but my CT, that's not how she runs her classroom. I'm not saying she runs it badly. It's just, I really feel like he should have some structure. And I do really hope that Joshua improves upon his behavior in the near future so he can be a successful individual. And that's my case study.